You Advanced Magazine. I'm Brandon.
And I'm John. Brandon, I was just reading a really cool book about laboratory research. Do you like to read?
I do like to read, but I need to do it much more often. And I'm holding a book here. It says it's a chemistry laboratory, but you know why? This is a cover because we use this on some other script or TV shooting. So it's actually a Nicholas Sparks book. So this got me interested because I'm thumbing through this and I'm I need to read fiction more often.
Yeah, that's a genre of literature, which we're talking about today. There's fiction and nonfiction. Those are the two big genres. That's one of our words for today, G-E-N-R-E. A genre is a different style of something. Yeah. Do you prefer fiction, or sounds like you prefer nonfiction?
I prefer nonfiction, and here's why, because I feel like if I'm going to take the time to read, I want to get information that I can apply to my life, right now.
Yeah.
But I think you lose a lot when you don't read some fiction. So I've never read this book. I'm not promoting it. It was just here. But I think fiction is good because for creativity, right?
Definitely. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of pros and cons with fiction, right? On the one hand, you make a good point that learning real facts and real information is super important. Fiction, you're never entirely sure. Historical fiction can be a lot of fun, reading about a time period.
That's something I've been interested in. I was thinking about I should read some historical fiction.
Yeah, recently I read a historical fiction version of a famous, really old book called The Gallic Wars by Julius Caesar. So it was a version of his autobiography, which is when an autobiography is when someone writes about themselves. So you got to be careful with autobiographies. But it was interesting historical fiction. I feel like I learned about the Roman army and the campaigns in Germany.
Do you prefer fiction or nonfiction?
No, I'm a nonfiction guy. So let's go to our poll really quick and see what you are, because we have some options here. What kind of reading do you most enjoy? Paper or classic books, e-books, newspaper, magazines, or online articles? To answer your question, I do most of my reading with online articles. I'm a news guy. I like to know what's going on in the world, what's happening in science, technology, business. I do probably 90% of my reading online through news. But I do love reading a paper book. How about you?
I also enjoy a paper book. However, I like the convenience of an e-book. Like if I'm traveling, I have a Kindle, right, an e-reader, and so I can take that and you can have several books on it. It saves a lot of space. But I really prefer a paper book. I'm old school.
What about you viewers out there? Type in your answer, paper book, e-book. We'd love to hear what you like and maybe why. Let's go to our discussion question also. By the way, it looks like newspaper and magazines are winning.
That's great. Advanced Magazine, come on.
What is your favorite kind of book to read? So now we're just talking about actual books written by an author. Do you prefer fiction, nonfiction? What are some other genres maybe within fiction?
Yeah. Well, we mentioned historical fiction, right? That would be a genre.
Yeah.
There's also, I guess you could, adventure, maybe a genre within that, or that sort of thing.
Science fiction is one.
That would be one of my least favorites. Sorry for all the science fiction.
That's one of my favorite fiction genres.
Balance each other out.
I read the book Jurassic Park recently, the novel. That's one of the fiction books I go back to. I love those movies. Yeah. A lot of movies come from books, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always interested if a movie, it comes from a book. I feel like, it's going to be really interesting, hopefully.
And hopefully your English is reaching a level now with advanced where you're able to pick up a lot of great English literature. I'm actually really impressed here in Taiwan at the level of English literature that students are reading, even in high school and college. I know that a lot of classic American novels are read in class. I think that's quite impressive.
Absolutely. And if you're a busy business person or just a busy person, there's audiobooks, right? You can be on the MRT and listen to some audiobooks. I think that's a really good way to take in information.
It really is. So, do you feel like audiobooks are cheating when it comes to reading books?
I feel like it sort of is, but I think it doesn't matter, right? I think like you are taking in information and sharpening your mind and learning new concepts. Now, maybe like a fiction book, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't want to listen to that like to an audiobook, and maybe it could be really interesting.
Yeah.
I think for me, for audiobooks, my mind moves on to other things, and I'm like, oh wait, what did they just say? Whereas if I'm reading, I can just quickly go back and see what is there on the page. So that is one issue for me.
More of your senses are captured by that when you're reading it.
I would maybe rather listen to a podcast and read a book personally, but but that's a good way to get information too in a podcast.
Apparently, from a study that I saw, when it comes to retaining information, retaining means keeping it in. When retaining information is about the same between reading, let's say, a textbook and listening to it. So take that with a grain of salt. When you say take that with a grain of salt, that's an English idiom that means take what I said. I think it's true, but there might be a little bit of non-truth in there. You know, that's just one study.
Right.
So it looks like online articles are winning, which I think is understandable. We're all on our phones a lot more. Evangeline, you say you're about 80% online articles, 20% digital books, and this is why you like it. Great English, by the way. Easily collection and always new without getting old. And the yellow moisture. That's right, because, okay, in Taiwan, the humidity is very high, and as books get older, oftentimes you'll get mold in the pages or the pages age. I've got a really old copy of the Greek. It's a Greek-English Bible, and the back is just falling off. So every time I pick it up, I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't fall apart in my hands. Yeah. What's your favorite book to read?
Oh, my favorite book to read? You mean like an ongoing type of thing, or like I would come back to it?
Yeah, or a book that's just so good that you haven't finished it yet.
Well,
you're just like,
I have two answers. I would say, first of all, I read the Bible. That's one I revisit.
That's why I asked that question, because I immediately thought I have so many Bibles in my house that I'm always reading.
There's lots of wisdom there to help me in my daily life, and I think that's really important. Another book that I really enjoyed that actually was fiction is called The Shack. They actually turned it into a movie as well. And I think that is a riveting story, meaning it draws you in, it's exciting, and has a lot of good meaning to it, analogies that you can use. So I really recommend that. It's also a movie.
That movie is so sad. It makes you cry.
But powerful,
when you read a book, what's your favorite thing about reading books? I think for me, I think of two major benefits for reading books. One is it's a super fun thing to do, right? Maybe not everybody enjoys books, and we all probably don't read as much as we used to, or at least on paper books. But book reading is really fun. It's also really good for your mind and for your comprehension. So if you're studying English, reading a book, and if you can, find a quiet place and read it out loud, that will really help you in business, since a lot of your brain's memory power comes from just repeating and processing and using different senses.
I think it will help with your writing as well by reading. Your writing will become better, will improve, because you'll see how books are written. Obviously you want to read good books that are well written, so that can impact your writing in a positive way.
So true, because language has certain patterns, right? And so the more you read, the more you just see people putting these patterns together, and it becomes second nature. That's a really good, I think that's probably the number one reason to do a lot of reading, especially as a student, right?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So my Chinese is not very good. I'm a Chinese student, and so reading Chinese is extremely difficult for me. Have you found that you get more comfortable the more you practice in Chinese?
I've mastered the Chinese language. I think there's nothing left to learn. Actually, my Chinese is not very good at all. It is difficult to learn, but I like it when you hear the same word over and over. And recently I heard a word, I think it was gui tai, for counter. Is that right?
Yeah, like a gui tai.
Yeah, gui tai. Is that counter? Anyway, I kept hearing that. Thank you, team. I kept hearing that. I feel like I should know what that is. I'm in the bank. What are they saying? Is it a person? I'm trying to look it up. I couldn't figure it out. And finally, someone told me. So sometimes you hear these words. Maybe you hear that in English. You're like, I should know what that is. And then you finally figure it out, and that's good.
Hi, Jimmy. You said the online articles are your favorite due to the It's easy to check the definitions of words we don't know. That's true. These days, depending on your browser, you can just highlight things or left click. I'm not sure, depending on the browser, and you can get the definition right there.
And Google Translate is really helpful. I use it all the time for language. It makes you a lazy student sometimes, but it is helpful in the moment if you don't know something.
It's true. All right, friends, we're almost out of time. Evangeline, you say reading books helps you get rid of stress and use your whole mind to get into the book's world and get to reflect it slowly. It's true. They say that you don't need to go on vacation when you can just open up a book. You can just go and be transported to that world.
Or you can go on vacation with a good book, even better.
Yeah. They just read it on the train. But it is fun to read books as a form of relaxation. All right, friends, that's about all the time we have for today. Luna, how are you doing, sister? You say, I liked Edgar Allan Poe's work when I was a student.
Me too.
Yeah. The one that I still remember is The Black Cat. I'm trying to remember that. But it turns out, however, the author Edgar Allan Poe was a cat lover. I also love cats. Now, there's something about authors. I feel like they always put their middle name in there, right? Edgar Allan Poe, C.S. Lewis.
That's true.
J.K. Rowling.
Well, sometimes there's not even the real name, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Pseudonym.
Did you know that I wrote a book? I actually wrote a book. You can get it on. I should plug my book.
I've seen it.
It's a kid's book.
Yes.
I did the illustrations.
It's beautiful.
Called Mama Hawk, How Can I Be Wise? I don't know if I'm allowed to plug my own book on the channel.
Well, you already have.
But it's a picture book. It's a Bible book. But you can see it on Amazon.
It's really cool.
And I did the artwork for it also.
Which is pretty impressive.
Friends, we'd like to hear, if you're not tuning into our live stream, if you're watching this afterwards, send us your favorite novel. And if it's in Chinese, that's even better, because we would love to learn what novels are really good in the amazing body of Chinese literature.
Yes. Hopefully it has Bapa. That's easier to read.
Yeah. That'd so long. All right. Well, friends, we love you guys. We'll see you next week. Keep practicing your English. If you want more content here on Advanced, hit that join button. It's just down there on your screen. And we appreciate you guys. Get your friends to subscribe. And don't forget to read today's lesson. It's about literature. We hope you read a good book this week. Jiao, God bless you guys. We will see you in a week.
Yes, see you next week.
It's a lot of hours. It's 24 times 7.
A lot of reading to do.
Lots of reading.